Two men, posing as HOA inspectors, went door to door, preying on unsuspecting homeowners, scamming and robbing them blind. They had their act down to perfection, flashing fake badges, speaking with false authority, intimidating their way into houses without suspicion. It was working flawlessly until they knocked on the wrong door. Full of confidence, they attempted their usual routine, pushing their way inside as if they had every right to be there. But what they didn't realize, what they couldn't have possibly known, was that the man behind that door was not just another gullible homeowner. No, he was a federal agent. And their little con was about to implode in the worst possible way. You won't believe how justice was served. It all started with a knock. Not the lazy, distracted kind you'd hear from a delivery guy dropping off a package. Not the hesitant tap of a kid selling fundraiser chocolates.
No.
This knock was different. 3 sharp, deliberate pounds against the door.
Loud.
Demanding. The kind of knock that didn't ask, it ordered. The kind that made the walls shake, that sent a shiver of unease through the air. In the kitchen, Daniel Carter paused, his coffee cup inches from his lips. His grip on the mug tightened slightly. Too early. Way too early for visitors. His first instinct? A neighbor, maybe. Mrs. Calloway from down the street, coming to complain about his truck being too close to her mailbox again. Or perhaps that one guy, the one with the unnaturally perfect lawn, looking for an excuse to preach about community standards. Then came the voice. Homeowners Association inspection. Open up. Daniel's entire body went rigid. The words hit his ears all wrong. HOA? That didn't make sense. He didn't live in an HOA. That was intentional. He had bought this house specifically to avoid one. No pointless fines for leaving his trash bin out a few minutes too long. No absurd restrictions on what color he could paint his shutters. No clipboard-carrying busybodies telling him how to mow his lawn. He valued his peace. And yet, these guys were standing at his door, claiming they had authority over his home? Something was off. Slowly, setting his mug down with a quiet clink, Daniel moved across the living room, careful not to cast a shadow through the sidelight window. Years of training had drilled one rule into him: observe before engaging. Peering through the peephole, he got a look at them.
2 men.
Identical uniforms, navy blue polos embroidered with HOA Inspector in thick white stitching. Khaki pants. Badges clipped to their belts. But something about those badges was wrong. Too shiny. Too cheap. The kind you'd order from a sketchy website that also sells fake diplomas and novelty doctor notes. His eyes flicked between them. The tall one, Blondie, stood stiff, arms crossed, mirrored sunglasses masking his eyes. Too stiff. Like he was trying to play a role he didn't fully understand. The shorter one, Mustache, was stockier, his stance wide, chest puffed out like he was daring someone to challenge him. Daniel didn't open the door. Instead, his voice came through firm, controlled. HOA doesn't have jurisdiction here. A pause. A shift. Blondie turned slightly toward Mustache, as if waiting for backup. Then his voice came smooth, practiced. Sir, this is a mandatory home inspection. We need to verify compliance with neighborhood safety regulations. Daniel almost laughed. Safety regulations? What's safety regulations? Another pause. Then Mustache stepped forward, lowering his voice, trying to sound more authoritative. Sir, you can either open the door, or will be forced to enter by authority of the HOA Security Division. And there it was. The moment their petty scam turned into something much more dangerous. Most people would have panicked. Most people would have cracked the door, asked questions, maybe let these two step inside just far enough to shift the power dynamic. Just enough to lose control. But Daniel wasn't most people. He was a federal agent. And what they had just done, that was attempted illegal entry under false authority. Taking a slow, measured breath, he let his voice drop, steady as stone. You got a warrant? Silence. Blondie's grip tightened on his crossed arms. Mustache blinked too many times in a row. Then a scoff. A weak attempt to dismiss the question. Sir, under HOA bylaws, we don't. Daniel flipped the lock. In one swift motion, he swung the door open. The fake inspectors froze. For the first time, Daniel got a good look at them. and they got an even better look at him. Not a confused homeowner. Not some frightened retiree they could bulldoze with empty threats. But a federal agent. Badge in his hand. Gun on his hip. Expression cold and unamused. And just like that, they knew they had picked the wrong house. For a long, heavy second, nobody moved. The air between them felt thick, buzzing with the weight of sudden, terrifying realization. These men weren't intimidating an old couple. They weren't running their con on some unsuspecting suburban family.
No.
They had just walked straight into a federal agent's house.
And now?
Now they were caught. Blondie's mirrored sunglasses didn't do much to hide the panic in his eyes. His jaw twitched. Lips parted slightly, like his brain was scrambling for a way out. Run? Talk their way out? Mustache swallowed hard. His atoms apple-bobbed. His fingers twitched at his sides. Tension rippled through his forearms. Daniel saw it, the split-second panic. The flicker of fight or flight. They were calculating. Deciding whether to double down on the lie or cut and run. Mustache was the first to move. His hands lifted slightly, not in surrender.
Not yet.
Just hedging his bets. This is a misunderstanding, he blurted. His voice was controlled, too controlled. We were just conducting a safety check. Daniel took a step forward. Slow. Deliberate. Blondie stepped back. Instinctively.
Just a small step.
But enough. His back hit the porch railing, blocking any easy escape. He wasn't in control anymore. You know impersonating an official is a federal crime, right? Daniel's voice was flat.
Come.
No yelling. No threats. Just a simple, irrefutable fact. Blondie licked his lips. Hesitated. Sir, we're just... Where'd you get the badge? Daniel cut in. Blondie's mouth snapped shut. Mustache shifted on his feet. Too much thinking. Too much hesitation. Daniel knew what that meant. Liars always overthink their next move. Blondie exhaled sharply. Forced out a week, sir, Wrong answer. Daniel didn't waste time. His hand went behind his back. The sharp clink of metal. The sound of handcuffs. And just like that, everything changed. The moment those cuffs came into view, Mustache moved. Hand darting toward his waistband. A weapon. But Daniel didn't hesitate. His gun was already out. Already aimed. Don't. The word boomed. It wasn't a request. It wasn't a warning. It was a command. Mustache froze. Fingers inches from his gun. Shoulders tight. Body locked.
Blondie?
His hands flew up.
Palms out.
No sudden movements now, huh?